Hey, this is RJ Hauman with FAIR, and I'm joined by our research director, Matt O'Brien. Of course, I am government relations director here at FAIR. Obviously, breaking news coming out yesterday. Obviously, the Trump administration released their framework for an immigration reform bill. Again, addressing the DACA population. Huge surprise here. Again, the Trump administration was talking about a DACA fix, potentially, in exchange for some of the reforms that the president ran on. But last night, everything's out the window again. President Trump talking about 1.8 million illegal aliens that he's going to put on a path to citizenship. I mean, this is a sea change from what he ran on. Again, President Trump, as you all know, promised to rescind DACA on day one, ran on the promise of absolutely no amnesty. So, Matt, what do you make of this proposal? Before we get into some of the nuts and bolts of it, let's just talk about, what do you think of it?
Well, it looks like a complete disaster because it's the same problem we always have. Once you do an amnesty, it sends a clear message to the rest of the world that the borders are open.
Wide
if
open.
you hang out here long enough, you'll eventually get amnesty. The other problem, and it was the problem with the 1986 amnesty that put us in the situation that we're in now, is it's never 1.8 million people.
Right.
Because of chain migration, you have many, many, many times that, because every new immigrant that's admitted then becomes an initiating immigrant to sponsor other immigrants.
Right. Now, again, what this legislative framework does, again, now there's no text out there. So again, we're not commenting on exactly the specific proposals, but they do say it will end chain migration again down the line. However, because of the backlog right now, again, chain migration under this proposal really won't end for maybe 10, 12 years, could be even longer than that. Is that true?
That's true, and that's if it ends at all, because one thing they haven't made clear is whether they're changing the cap number to reduce it and bring fewer people into the United States, or whether they're just changing the composition and shifting it more towards skill-based. And that's something that a number of commentators have asked about, and no one seems to be able to get a straight answer.
Yeah, again, and that's the case with the lottery as well. What this new framework does, too, is it says it ends the lottery. However, I mean, again, those 50,000 visas would then be reallocated to the employment-based categories. Now, again, what we have here, and it's important to remember when you see a proposal like this, and this is what is so alarming, from FAIR's perspective, is that if this is the baseline, this can only get worse. Okay, again, Mitch McConnell is potentially going to put this immigration bill on the floor. If it ever takes form, we don't even know who's going to write it yet. We're just dealing with this framework. But again, if it goes to the floor, you have so many pro-amnesty Republicans and Democrats that are going to look to make this thing way worse. Again, that is why it is so alarming that the White House started here as the basis of negotiations. If this is the end product, that's one thing, but the fact that we're here, this thing is only going to get worse. And you got to look to FAIR, guys, everybody out there, these next couple weeks. This is going to be huge. This is the Gang of Eight all over again. We've been here before. There's been decades of broken enforcement promises to the American people. Matt, what happened in 1986? Is this kind of 1986 all over again?
It's 1986 all over again. We got the Immigration Reform and Control Act, which was supposed to impose border security, cut off illegal immigration, and hit the reset button.
Right.
What it actually did was it attracted thousands upon thousands of illegal aliens here in the hopes they were going to be able to benefit from the next amnesty. It resulted in just millions of fraudulent applications being filed with INS, and it's largely responsible for us being in the situation that we're currently in. But what I think is more important about this bill that we need to talk about is there were security promises made in the Immigration Reform and Control Act, and none of those actually ever materialized. There was supposed to be increased worksite enforcement. There was supposed to be a significant increase in the number of Border Patrol agents. There's supposed to be barriers put up and technological advances implemented along the border, and those were never done. There were subsequent bills like the Secure Fence Act to do those things, and they were never accomplished. And here are all the really key points that FAIR and people who are concerned about this issue want to see in legislation aren't there. There's nothing doing away with sanctuary cities. There's nothing making E-Verify mandatory. There's not sufficient funding for a border wall. There's about what you would need for a border wall to be placed in a trust fund for a whole bunch of vaguely defined purposes. So it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, again, and with this, this does provide, a little over $20 billion, again, for the border wall. But as Matt brought up, you're right. the talk of an amnesty, merely the talk, not just passing an amnesty, you see a surge at the border. We're already seeing it. December, I think, is the last month that we have DHS statistics, and December marked the 8th straight month of increases in border apprehensions. I think on the date of January 14th, they've had the most border apprehensions in the last couple years. Why? Simply because Congress is talking about an amnesty. And then just wait until they actually enact it. Again, even if the wall will be fully constructed based on what's provided in this legislation, that's going to take a while. The wall doesn't magically get erected when you give the funds for it. You're going to have a run at the border. And it's something that FAIR is needing to call attention to, and that's what we're doing right now. And we encourage everybody, make your voice heard in these comments here. We like to gauge where our membership is at here so we can fight for your priorities, fight for the American priorities as we weigh in this debate to the administration and to policymakers in Congress. Let us know, what do you think is missing from here? Again, Matt brought up a good point. What about sanctuary cities? What about mandatory e-verify? Hey, this builds the wall. Okay, but let's talk about really stopping illegal immigration. The primary driver of illegal immigration isn't coming over our southern border. It's visa overstays. I believe in fiscal year 2016, there were about 670,000 people overstayed their visas. How do you actually stop that? You do mandatory e-verify. These people can't work when they overstay their visas. You implement a biometric entry-exit system so you know who's coming in and who's leaving this country. A wall can't stop people from overstaying their visas. Illegal immigration will still continue to happen, Matt, correct?
Correct. There's a draw here. People want to live in the United States because it's a fantastic place and because you can earn a living and support your family. So if you don't put measures in place to control both the illegal migration, but also the lawful migration to the United States, then you have a problem. And what this bill does is it provides a political compromise to make one constituency happy, but it doesn't take into account the will of the other 320 million Americans who are upset about this and who are tired of seeing their borders being controlled by criminals, drug traffickers, terrorists, and people of that nature. It should be the choice of the American people how to secure our country.
Right. Now, one thing to touch on as well, too, is, again, FAIR is in firm opposition to this framework right now. We want to just establish that right now. We have made the White House known of our concerns right now, and we're definitely weighing in on this in your interest. Again, so please make your voice heard in these comments and let us know where you guys are at on here. Do you view this as a betrayal of President Trump's campaign promises? What do you think is missing here? Just make your voice heard. It is absolutely key. And, one thing, Matt, is, of course, we're in opposition to what's out here right now. Other immigration groups, from our perspective, are as well. However, on the other side of the debate, the open borders groups, the illegal alien advocates out there are all dismissing this as a white supremacist wish list and other ridiculous things because they reject the premise of any secure borders or immigration enforcement at all. Matt, does that just show the the current Democratic Party as it stands has moved so far away from, again, the Democratic Party of maybe 2006 when Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein, Hillary Clinton, they all voted for the Secure Fence Act. I mean, it is just based on the reactions to what is completely some reasonable provisions in here in exchange for a massive amnesty, that they totally reject that. I mean, are they ever going to come to the table on immigration enforcement, do you think?
No, at this particular point in time, I don't think they are. I think what they've done is they have put this as their key issue. They don't like President Trump. They don't like his agenda, and they have made this the key issue where they think that they can stop him.
Right.
It also happens to benefit them because if the Democrats secure an amnesty for someone, who do you think they're going to vote for?
Correct.
The problem is if Republicans give in on an amnesty, they're going to lose their base, and the chances are that the immigrants that gain status through an amnesty probably aren't going to vote for them anyways.
Right.
Aside from the fact that amnesties are just a bad idea, they're bad policies.
Of course.
So the Democrats have proven repeatedly that they are not going to come to the table on this measure in good faith and make reasonable compromises. And one has to begin to wonder, who are they representing? The voters that put them in office or illegal aliens who are in violation of our laws?
Right. Again, and it's very clear, Democrats' main constituency, again, are these people that are here illegally. And again, President Trump, it's kind of ridiculous, and we totally reject the notion that in order to secure the border, in order to end chain migration, in order to get rid of the visa lottery, and the things that are even on the table here, in order to end sanctuary cities, institute mandatory e-verify, that we have to do an amnesty in exchange for those things. Those are common sense measures that are supported by a broad spectrum, majority of the American people. The notion that we have to do an amnesty to simply secure our borders, that's a fundamental sovereign responsibility that we need to do. The notion that an amnesty has to be in exchange for those things is simply ridiculous. And we go back to what then candidate Trump said on the campaign trail, is completely rejecting the idea of these mass amnesty proposals. Where is he? Where is that President Trump? We're not seeing him in this framework right now. So again, everybody make your voice heard in these comments. Tell your elected officials that you are firmly against this mass amnesty potential proposal out there. 1.8 million people. This isn't a DACA fix anymore. Everybody, the media, President Trump likes to call it a DACA fix. Simply what we have here is another mass amnesty bill, and with your help, we're going to kill it. Thank you again for joining us today. I'm RJ Hauman. That's Matt O'Brien. Everybody have a great weekend.